My sister slapped me in front of 200 people at her gala because I wouldn't give her my lake house. Turns out, a judge was watching. You'd think a man like me would be hard to embarrass. I've pitched multi-million-dollar architecture projects to stone-faced city boards, hosted cocktail tours for billionaires, even been quoted in Architectural Digest once. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the night my own sister slapped me in front of 300 art world elites. My name's Jordan Lansing. I'm 35 years old, live in Chelsea, and I run a consultancy firm that's helped design some of the most ambitious structures in North America. And on that particular Thursday night, I was dressed to the nines, sipping a frankly overpriced champagne at the Metropolitan Pavilion, pretending to be proud of my little sister, Paige. She's 28, sculptor, newly married to a man who looks like he was generated by a wellness app algorithm. The event was a black-tie gala celebrating the unveiling of her latest commission, some twisted bronze monstrosity she claimed symbolized inherited trauma and oceanic joy. Whatever that meant. The place was packed with gallery owners, trust fund kids, minor celebrities pretending to be major ones. I was there to support her. That was the plan. I had just reached the bar when my parents approached, Dad in his usual outdated tux, Mom with a scarf the size of a tablecloth knotted around her neck like she was hiding a secret. They flanked me like they'd rehearsed it. Before I could even ask how they were enjoying the event, my mother leaned in. You should really consider signing the lake house over to Paige and Caleb, she said. Eyes locked on mine like this was just a casual suggestion. My smile dropped. Excuse me. Dad stepped in like the closer. They want to turn it into a wellness retreat. You're barely up there anymore. I stared at them both, trying to find some trace of reason. It was Grandpa's, I said. He left it to me. I restored every inch of it. Mom gave a tight little shrug. Yes, and now you can pass it on. Isn't that what family does? That word, family, came out of her mouth like it still meant something. I didn't respond. I turned away, ordered another drink, and kept my back to them until they drifted off. Later that night, Paige took the stage for her acceptance speech. Her dress sparkled under the lights. Her new husband stood beside her, all glowing teeth and quiet smirks. She thanked the committee, the donors, her spiritual collaborators, whatever those were. Then she looked right at me. And to my brother, Jordan, she said, smiling wide, who couldn't find it in his heart to support our next chapter because he's too busy hoarding what was never really his. There was a split second where everyone froze, unsure if this was some kind of performance art. Then she slapped me, right across the face. Open palm. The sound cracked through the room like a dropped mic. I didn't move, didn't flinch. Just stood there under the spotlight, my jaw stiff and my face stinging as laughter and whispers rippled through the crowd. Paige tossed her curls, stepped back to the mic, and finished with a smug little nod. Selfishness is just a louder kind of fear. Everyone clapped. I didn't. I stood there, frozen, my glass still in my hand. And in that moment, I didn't make a scene. I didn't yell or storm off. I smiled. A small, calm, dangerous smile. They thought they'd humiliated me, but all they did was flip a switch. And standing there, with Paige's handprint still burning on my cheek, I made a silent promise. They weren't going to laugh for long. Backstage was a mess of velvet curtains, crates, and half-eaten hors d'oeuvres. I wasn't sure how I got there, probably just wandered in a daze after the slap. The air smelled like sweat and perfume. My cheek still burned, but not as much as the cold clarity setting in. They were waiting. Paige, Mom, Dad. Like I owed them an explanation. Jordan, my mother started, her tone tight like she was scolding a child for spilling juice. That was completely avoidable. I almost laughed. Was it? Because from where I was standing, it looked like your daughter hit me in front of a crowd and you all just stood there clapping. She was emotional, Dad cut in. This gala meant a lot to her. And apparently, I said, so did publicly humiliating me. You humiliated her first, Paige snapped, arms crossed, wedding ring glittering as she gestured like a prosecutor. You made us beg for something that should have been offered freely. That lake house is just sitting there. You don't even use it. It's mine, I said. It was left to me. I poured 2 years into rebuilding that place. You think some yoga startup and essential oil retreat gives you the right to take it from me? It's not about rights, Mom said, in that condescending therapist voice she saved for special occasions. It's about contribution. Paige is building something meaningful. Don't, I interrupted. Don't act like I haven't built anything. I've been working since I was 21. I pay your property taxes. I paid for your kitchen remodel, remember that? Or does that not count because I don't dress it up in quartz crystals and buzzwords? Paige rolled her eyes. You build things for other people. Clients. Corporations. I create experiences. I transform people. Is that what that was? I asked. An experience? Transformative humiliation? Dad stepped forward, and for a second I saw the old version of him, the one who used to take me to junior college lectures on weekends just to give me a head start. But it faded fast. You're being dramatic, he said. Sometimes sacrifice is part of being the oldest. There it was. sacrifice. In their eyes, I wasn't a son or a brother. I was a source, a resource, the silent investor in their golden child's dreams. Paige softened her voice, tried that fake sincerity she always used when she wanted something. Come on, Jordan. Don't be bitter. You're successful. You'll always land on your feet. We just need this more than you do. I looked at all three of them. They didn't even realize how much they were showing, how little they thought of me beyond what I could provide. No, I said simply. They blinked. No. Paige echoed, like it was a foreign word. You don't need the house, I said. You just want control. You want me to give and give until I disappear. But not anymore. I turned to leave. Behind me, I heard Mom say quietly, he's always been like this. Doesn't know how to put family first. I didn't even slow down. Because for the first time, I finally understood. To them, family only mattered when I was useful. And from now on, I wasn't. Outside, the night air hit me like a slap of its own. It smelled like cigarette smoke and perfume, thick with the scent of expensive ego. The smoking patio was half full of curators, critics, bored-looking men in tailored suits, and interns pretending to know wine. Nobody paid me any attention. I was just another man in a tux with a red cheek and a stiff drink. Perfect. I leaned against the railing, pulled out my phone, and opened a private group chat. Not Instagram. Not Twitter. This wasn't for public spectacle. This was the curated circle. The ones who mattered. 12 names. Urban planners. A couple major donors. A journalist I'd once introduced to an investor who still owed me a favor. The former museum board chair who called me the only architect with vision and a spine. These were the people who could shift a conversation with a single repost or a dinner table anecdote. I started typing. Slowly. Carefully. Quick note. Since some of you were here tonight and saw part of what happened, I didn't want to make a scene, but I do want clarity. My sister Paige, during her acceptance speech, chose to slap me in front of the crowd after I declined to give her and her husband my inherited lake property. They want to turn it into a for-profit, healing retreat, and when I refused, she went full performance art. Thought you should know what this celebration was built on. I paused, then added. There's more to this, but I'll let the night play out. Some things reveal themselves if you stay quiet long enough. I hit send. Almost immediately, the read receipts lit up. A few dots appeared. One reply. Wait, she slapped you? Another. Unbelievable. I thought that was some bizarre part of her piece. I tucked my phone back into my jacket and took a deep breath. Behind me, someone cleared their throat. I turned. It was Marissa Cho, the curator for the Helix project, and someone with a Rolodex that could crush reputations in 2 phone calls. You all right? She asked, offering me a cigarette from a slim black case. I shook my head, trying to be. She lit hers, studying me through the flame. That was surreal. People are still talking about it. I gave her a tired smile. They won't be laughing for long. She raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Back inside, the music had changed. The light's a little harsher now. I walked in slowly, keeping to the edge of the crowd. The ripple had started. People weren't whispering about me anymore. They were turning toward Paige. And I didn't have to say another word. The slap went viral by morning. Not a blurry phone clip either. This was a crisp, high-definition recording taken by some gallery assistant with a front-row seat and a hunger for attention. The video hit my inbox before I even finished my first coffee. Paige, glowing and poised behind the mic. Me, in the crowd, calm and unreadable. Then a crack. The crowd's collective gasp. The cut to Caleb's frozen expression beside her. And then the camera zoomed in on me, standing completely still. Face unreadable. Not even blinking. Just sipping champagne with the kind of quiet composure people only recognize once they know they've messed up. By noon, the comments were pouring in. At ArtWatch blog, an artist slapping her own brother during a speech celebrating collective healing, performance, or power trip. At Design Truth Daily, award-winning architect Jordan Lansing humiliated on stage after refusing to hand over family property. Raises questions about entitlement in creative circles. At Philanthropulse, should donors and patrons reconsider support when emerging artists behave like trust fund tyrants? One of Paige's sponsors, a lifestyle brand that somehow managed to combine mindfulness with luxury handbags, quietly removed her photo from their social feed by the afternoon. That night, I got a call from Tomas, one of the city's top arts philanthropists. I didn't realize, he said, voice low and cautious, that this was personal. I didn't explain. I didn't need to. The narrative had shifted, and I didn't even have to touch it. By the next day, the Glass Ledger ran a piece titled, When Artists Demand More Than Inspiration. It featured a photo of Paige at the podium, hand midair, fury in her face. The article dissected the growing wave of creatives who leaned on moral superiority while quietly demanding unearned resources, usually from family, usually without accountability. They didn't name me. They didn't have to. I started getting calls from people I hadn't heard from in years. A former client from Montreal, my old grad school professor, a structural engineer I'd partnered with on a civic museum in Denver. Each one left a version of the same message. Just saw the clip. Hope you're okay. You handled it like a class act. That was the thing. I didn't do anything. And that's what made it work. Paige tried to recover. I saw a post go up on her page. A black and white photo of her sculpture with a vague caption about boundaries and miscommunication. The comments section did not go the way she planned. Did you just admit to slapping your brother because he wouldn't fund your business? Boundaries? You mean his house? Imagine getting publicly violent and then calling it miscommunication. She turned the comments off by evening. Meanwhile, I had coffee with a venture architect from Berlin, and by the time we finished our second cup, he had offered me a spot on a new waterfront development pitch. Funny how fast things change when you let the truth speak for itself. And Paige? She'd started to vanish from the spotlight. One whisper at a time. 3 days after the gala, I got a call from Justice Whitman. Yes, that Justice Whitman, the retired circuit judge turned civic mentor who now chaired half the design commissions in Brooklyn and spent her weekends mentoring up-and-coming architects with a ruthlessness that made developers sweat. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. I was there, she said. Saw it all. The slap, the way they boxed you in. It wasn't performance art, it was reputational abuse. And familial coercion, if we're being precise. I stood by the window in my office, staring out at the city like it might offer me better answers than the conversation I was having. You really think that's what it was? I've seen worse, she said. But rarely in public, and never with this much entitlement. You didn't retaliate. That's power, Jordan. That's restraint. Her voice dropped just slightly. They're going to realize what they lost when the dust settles. Keep your head. Let them spiral. I thanked her, hung up, then stood there a while, phone still in my hand, the words settling somewhere deep in my chest. My assistant popped her head in a minute later. You've got 4 new interview requests. The Journal of Urban Design, Modernist Weekly, Civic Voices, and, she checked her tablet, eyebrows lifting, Architect and Culture Today. They want to do a feature. Not just on the slap, but your career. I didn't even blink. Decline. She looked surprised. All of them. Tell them I'm not giving statements. Let the story do what it wants to do. Got it, she said, then hesitated. You sure you don't want to set the record straight? I looked at her. I already did. Just not with words. Meanwhile, Paige was busy lighting matches in a hurricane. She posted a blurry apology video on her Instagram stories. Rambling. No makeup, sad lighting, sipping tea like she'd just come back from a retreat she couldn't afford yet. She talked about being overwhelmed, family miscommunications, and healing through conflict. But it wasn't enough. The comments came fast. You didn't miscommunicate. You assaulted someone. You're not the victim, Paige. You just got caught. Your brother didn't even flinch. That's how used to being dismissed he must be. By the time she took it down, screenshots were already circulating in design forums and industry Slack channels. Then came the real fallout. A funding body quietly rescinded a previously announced grant. A curator who once called her visionary publicly reposted the clip with a single word, disappointing. And Caleb, her husband, the human dream catcher, tried to do damage control with a half-hearted Twitter thread about private matters, but ended up just making things worse. People dug into his LLC filings. Turns out the wellness retreat wasn't even registered yet. I didn't comment on any of it. Didn't like, didn't share, didn't blink. I had work to do. Real projects. Real cities. Real deadlines. Let them chase the narrative. I had already won it. It started with a single press release. The Brookridge Art Residency regrets to announce that Paige Lansing's upcoming installation has been canceled. No explanation. No spin. Just silence wrapped in corporate language. But I knew what it meant. Her spot was gone. It was the same residency that had launched 3 artists into national museums over the past 5 years. The same one she'd name-dropped at every family dinner. She'd already posted mock-ups of her concept online. A massive, twisting installation called Spine Memory. It was supposed to be her breakthrough. A sculpture about resilience. It wasn't going to happen now. The next day, I got a text from a mutual acquaintance. Hey, not sure if you've seen this. Her patron pulled out. Full withdrawal. They cited concerns about professionalism and values alignment. I didn't respond. A week later, someone forwarded me a thread from a niche art forum. Caleb's startup, the all-natural wellness retreat business they were trying to launch out of my lake house, had lost its 2 angel investors. Someone had shared the gala slap video in a group chat for early-stage investors, and apparently, it had made the rounds. Turns out, people don't want to fund a man who stands smiling while his wife publicly assaults her brother and then calls it art. And as for the lake house, I changed the locks. Put up a private property sign. I didn't need to send a message, just a copy of the deed, with my name alone. That should have been enough. But then I got the call. It was Paige. She didn't text first, didn't email. Just called out of the blue. I let it ring once before picking up. Her voice was raw. Jordan, I know you probably hate me right now. I didn't answer. Everything's falling apart. The residency's gone. Caleb's business, she exhaled shakily. The investors dropped out. We're hemorrhaging money. I don't know what to do. Still, I said nothing. There was a long pause. I shouldn't have hit you, she said finally. That wasn't fair. I just thought you'd always catch me. You always have. Now I spoke. Calm. Measured. You didn't care about my name until it was attached to your shame. She was quiet. Then came the tears. Or at least the sound of them. The kind that hoped to trigger the same old sibling instinct. To rescue. To soften. To step in. But I'd heard that performance before. She cried when she got caught shoplifting in college. Cried when she lied about my scholarship falling into her lap during family dinner. Cried when she needed help covering her rent after she quit a gallery job because they didn't understand her vision. The tears were part of the routine. I didn't flinch. I'm sorry, she whispered again. Please help me fix this. I looked out the window. My lake house glowed in the late afternoon sun. Quiet, untouched, mine. No, I said. You built this. You can live in it. Then I hung up. I stood there a moment, waiting to feel guilt, waiting for that old pang. But all I felt was clarity, because some things deserve to collapse. And this time, I didn't have to hold them up. 6 months passed. The headlines moved on. The clips stopped circulating. The group chat that once buzzed with gossip about the slap went quiet. But the silence that replaced it? That was the real reward. My firm had just secured the Brooklyn Renewal Project, a sprawling redevelopment initiative that would bring housing, parks, and cultural space to a part of the city that had been neglected for decades. It was the kind of legacy contract most architects only dreamed of. At the press conference, one of the city commissioners referred to me as the rare combination of artist and anchor. That phrase stuck with me. Afterward, I drove upstate for the weekend. The lake house was exactly as I left it. Cedar siding glowing in the late summer light. The dock polished from hours of sanding, my sketches still tacked to the workshop wall. The place had always been a refuge, but now it felt like something more. It felt earned. That weekend, I hosted a small group of friends and colleagues. People who respected boundaries. People who brought wine instead of expectations. We grilled on the deck. We talked shop and life and everything in between. And for the first time in years, nobody asked me for anything. Nobody needed bailing out. Nobody tried to guilt me. Nobody asked about Paige. Speaking of, she was back living with our parents. Caleb was gone. Moved to Oregon, supposedly. Their wellness brand folded completely. Last I heard, he'd taken a job designing Instagram ads for an oat milk startup. Paige hadn't posted online in months. Her art page was dormant. Her website, once covered in press clippings and client testimonials, now redirected to a broken link. Our parents went full damage control mode. I got a Christmas card that year from Mom, and signed but clearly written by her. Let's leave the past in the past. Hope you're doing well. I didn't reply, because by then, I'd realized something. The absence of their noise wasn't empty. It was peace. It wasn't that I wanted revenge. Not really. I hadn't orchestrated anything. I hadn't leaked stories. I hadn't gone on record. I just stopped cushioning the fall. And when I stopped, everything that was built on me, Paige's illusions, our parents' favoritism, the myth that I'd always show up, collapsed under its own weight. Funny how quiet things get when you stop catching people mid-fall. One night, I stood alone on the dock, barefoot, a drink in my hand. The lake was smooth and dark. The moon split in its surface like a cracked plate. I thought about everything. The gala, the slap, the spotlight, and how none of it mattered now. Because the real power wasn't in being seen. It was in being free. No more obligatory calls. No more emotional bartering. No more pretending I didn't notice how little they valued me. They never reached out again. And that, more than any apology they could have cobbled together, was the closure I didn't even know I needed.